Hi, I'm Abe, and this is Programbling Episode 4. I'm going to demonstrate how to use the text editor called Vim. Vim is one of two powerful old-school text editors. The other one is called Emacs. Both Vim and Emacs use purely keyboard controls to perform text editing. No button clicking or anything like that. The fundamental difference between the two is that Emacs uses the control key in combination with other keys. And so in Emacs, if you just type some keys, then text appears in your document as you would expect. And if you want to edit something, you hold down the control key and tap another key to perform an editing command. So that's kind of like the Control C, Control V of copy and paste. Similar style. Vim, on the other hand, uses two different modes of operation called command mode and text edit mode. And in command mode, every letter on the keyboard is an editing command or a cursor movement command. Kind of like in a paint program, how every key switches to a different tool. And then one of the keys gets you into text edit mode, where you can actually type in text. And then the escape key gets you back out of text edit mode into command mode again. Both Vim and Emacs have large fan bases. There's been a friendly rivalry for decades. Vim seems to be winning, though. Check out this article, State of Front-End 2022 by The Software House. Got a sweet three-letter domain, tsh.io. So this is a survey report. Lots of cool stuff. And let me jump down to what's your favorite desktop code editor? And Vim comes in at number 3. Now it's only 3.3%, but still hanging on. Those are rookie numbers, got to get those up. Top dog is Visual Studio Code, 74%. And I notice Sublime is still hanging on. I would say that's the spiritual ancestor of Visual Studio Code. Sublime kind of defined the look and feel of the modern generation of code editors. So why bother to learn Vim? Vim does have a steep difficulty curve, steep learning curve. It's going to take a while before it feels natural, and it can be very frustrating, certainly. But once you learn it, and once you can just keep your hands on the keyboard and don't have to be clicking on the mouse and clicking around to do anything, then and that combined with a fairly powerful set of instructions, set of commands you can execute, it's kind of like a little programming language that's made for code editing. And of course, there is a built-in scripting language with the regular Vim application that you can make all kinds of extensions and whatever. But anyhow, it's almost like the keys that you're typing are almost like little programs to manipulate text in the way that you want. And so you can become just very, very fast at coding and editing in Vim and just really do some amazing things. And once you do get used to Vim, once you get over the hump, and then you go back to Visual Studio Code or any other modern editor, it can feel pretty slow to be having to drag the mouse around and click around and all that. But there's good news. You can eat your cake and have it too, because most code editors do have a Vim extension available. So in Visual Studio Code, you can download a plugin or whatever that turns on the Vim command set that enables the Vim keyboard commands. So you can use Vim controls in pretty much any code editor. let's talk about the history of Vim a little bit. So in the old days, college campuses and such used to have just a single centralized Unix computer that was accessed remotely by many people simultaneously using terminals. Terminals were either a program on their computer or they were just a simple monitor and keyboard that basically piped their input and output to and from the Unix computer. And one of the earliest text editors was called ed, short for edit. And ed was a line editor. So you didn't see a full screen full of code at once. Instead, there is a cursor internally. It's on some line, but you don't see anything until you tell it to print out the current line. And then it prints out, oh, this is the line you're on. And then you can tell it to add a new line above or below, or to print out a range of lines, and so on. And this was because in the old days, the computers didn't have much processing power relatively, and there was a lot of load on the system from all the users, and the telecommunications and bandwidth basically was pretty low relatively. So those terminals just didn't have really the power to be showing full screenfuls of code and updating them all as you scroll around. But as computers became more powerful, most likely, someone developed a visual editor based on Vim. They called it VI. VI is short for visual. So it's visual mode ed. Did I say VI based on Vim? I meant VI based on ed. But as computers became faster, most likely the reason, someone developed a new style of full screen display editor. It used a lot of the same ed commands, and they called it VI. VI was short for visual mode, so visual mode ed. And it became very popular, very ubiquitous. Pretty much every operating system, every Unix-style operating system comes with some form of VI or Vim. So you can find it on Unix and Linux and Mac OS. But as far as I know, development just kind of stalled, just kind of halted. VI existed, it did what it needed to do, and there probably just wasn't much development being put into it. And most importantly, it did not work on home computers, home PCs, like PC and Amiga at the time were two big ones. So a guy named Bram Molenaar started making his own clone of VI. He called it Vim, which stood for VI imitation. And he got it working. I remember actually using it back in the early days. I was like, oh, cool, a version of VI for my Amiga. And so he kept working on it, and pretty soon it became feature complete. It had all the features of VI, and it worked on home PCs. And then he kept working on it and added a lot of new features and really just made it a lot better. And so he changed the meaning of the name to be VI improved instead of VI imitation. And here we are today. All right, let's take a look at it. Let's learn some Vim. Now, how do you get started with Vim? I want to switch over to Windows first and go to www.vim.org. And so for Windows, so there's a download section here, and you can find links to other stuff. And this is probably the best place to get the Windows version. Downloaded. I guess virus scan is going now. Open file. I already have mine installed, but I'll show you something. Accept, next. So I previously ran this installer, so I don't believe these two boxes are checked by default. So I would recommend go ahead and check vim console program and create .bat files. And that lets you launch vim and gvim from the command line. I'll tell you the difference in a minute. So one more thing, just stick with the defaults, especially do not remap certain keys to be Windows friendly. That'll just hamper things. All right, I already installed it, so I'll quit. And once you have installed it, you can go to the command prompt, and you can run it in two ways. You can type vim and a file name if you want. So vim runs the console-based, the command prompt-based version. So this is all happening inside the command prompt, and it works well. And we'll explore in a little bit. You can also type gvim and a file name if you want. Gvim is the GUI version or graphical version, and that brings up Vim in a separate window. And this is probably what you would want to use most of the time on Windows is gvim. So just for various certain occasions, I'll do something from the command prompt, but like if certain programs need a text editor to be launched from the command prompt and wait for it to be done before continuing with a program, then that's when I use the regular Vim. Anyhow, gvim, way to go. Now on Mac, probably best off just doing a brew, so install homebrew.sh if you haven't yet. Just doing a brew install macvim, and that'll get you going. And then once again, you have regular Vim, which is displayed in the terminal, and you have mvim, which is macvim, and that's the Mac corollary to gvim, so that comes up in a separate GUI window, and that's like it's a little bit better with the colors and things, so that's what I would recommend. Okay, let's type mvim and some file name. Like, by the way, you won't see the colors the same as I have here. Those are all in my configuration settings. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So mvim test.txt brings this up. So to start with, I'm in command mode, so I could type some of the different keys and not see anything happen. So X, HJKL, nothing happens. I have to type one of the commands to get into text edit mode. One of the most common is I for insert, and now I can type X, HJKL, and of course it's all showing up. And I can type some other stuff. I type something real, so to speak. Typing practice sentences. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dogs. Okay, so now I want to save the file. So how do I do it? the command is :WQ. Now if I type that in right now, it's just appearing in the document. It's not actually doing anything. So what I need to do is I need to remember to hit escape. And that puts me back in command mode. And now :W. Actually, so :WQ writes and quits. I'll just do :W to save. All right, let's practice moving the cursor around a little bit. So you can use the arrow keys, but then after a while, and after you become better and better at Vim, then you start to resent the time it takes to move your hand from the home row over to the arrow keys to move the cursor around. So Vim has a mapping of home row keys that move the cursor around as well. So J and K move down and up. So J, 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 K, 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 K. L moves to the right, L, 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 L. H moves to the left, H, 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 H. Takes a little getting used to. By the way, let me point out where you can get some documentation after this video. If you go to my programbling.com website and click on reference, and then Vim command reference. Here's a Vim command reference, which lists a number of common commands just in a tabular format. And so you can check that out later. And then also there are some cheat sheets available which show the commands on a keyboard layout. And so this will be really intimidating in the beginning, most likely. But yeah, this shows you what happens with little I versus capital I. And here we see the cursor keys, the alternate cursor keys, H, J, K, L, and so on and so on. So, but don't worry too much about that. Let's get back to practicing. In Vim. Okay, so I'm using my cursor keys, my home row cursor keys. How else can I move the cursor around? I can type W, 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 W. W jumps to the next word. Each time I hit W, it jumps to the next word. B goes back a word. B, 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 B. A kind of cool thing in Vim is you can precede most any command by typing a number, and the command will be repeated that many times. So if I want to go forward 2 words, I type 2W. It goes forward 2 words. 5W. WW. I can hit the $, and the cursor jumps to the end of a line. I can hit 0. The cursor jumps to the beginning of the line. $0, $0. And I'll show you a couple more later, but that's good for the moment. Now, how can I delete this garbage I was typing up here? One way to delete is to type X. So move the cursor in command mode over a letter and type X. X, X, X. That deletes a letter each time. I could type 4X to delete 4 letters at once. And if I can keep typing X, but it's not going to delete the line itself. How do I get rid of a line? You type D, and then it wants something else after it. So D, so type D again, that deletes a line. So D to delete something, and then what? D again just deletes the line. Now, what else could you type after the first D? You could type DW. So DW deletes that word, DW. I could delete 5 words with 5DW. Let me move the cursor out to the middle. I could delete to the end with $, D $. I could delete to the beginning with D0. I could move to a word. If I go back a word with B, it goes back to lazy. Let me go back to dogs. So I can type DB to delete where the cursor would have moved back. So lots of possibilities of how these editing and cursor movement commands can be combined. One of the most useful commands that Vim added over VI. VI had a single level of undo. You could only undo the last thing. Vim has unlimited undo within the current session. So until you quit and come back, you can unlimited undo. So I can undo all the changes. If you go back too far, you can type Control-R to redo. That was all stuff I typed at once, so that's why it all comes back right away. Redo, redo, redo. Okay, let me undo again. Here's another handy command is period. So let me delete a line with DD. Now the period command repeats the last editing command, not the last cursor movement, but the last edit of some sort. So I can now hit period to repeat that DD command. Period, 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 period. Undo, 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 undo. So let me DD, delete some of these lines, delete that. All right. Now anything you delete goes into the clipboard, and you can paste it somewhere else with P. So let's say I want to switch the position of these two lines. I can go to the first one and DD and then P, and P pastes it below the current line. Capital P pastes it above the current line. So if I go up here anywhere, I type capital P, that line is pasted above the current line. I could paste 5 copies with 5P. I could paste 10,000 copies with 10000P. Now we've got a big file. Let me grab one of these lines. How can well, I didn't show you how to do that. You can copy a line without deleting it with the Y command. So, or copy something without deleting it. So to copy a line, Y starts the yank or the copy, and then you, again, similar to D, and then having to hit D again, YY copies a line. I could hit YW to copy a word. I'll go back to YY to copy the line. I can move anywhere, P to paste, P to paste. Okay, here's a cursor movement to get up to the top of the screen. Let me go back, let me go down and just paste a few more. I just want to make it obvious that I'm scrolling around since most of the lines are the same otherwise. So here's a command to get to the top of the screen or the top of the document. So G to go somewhere, and then G again, go to the top. So GG jumps up to the top. I'll add a line. Okay, how do I add a line? How do I insert a line? Now I'm debating on how to show it exactly. So let me just start with typing O. So let me go to a line and type O to open, and we see it opens a new line below the current line, and it goes into text edit mode. So now I can type something else. Escape to go back to command mode. But how would I add a line at the very top? So just like lowercase o opens a new line below the current spot or after the current spot, capital O opens a new line above the current spot. So this is the top of the file. Escape. How do we go to the bottom of a file? That's capital G. Capital G jumps to the bottom. Now on the bottom right of the screen, you can see the line number that you're currently on. So I'm on line 10,019 here. So let me just add O to open and add a new line. This is the bottom. Escape. GG to go to the top. Capital G, go to the bottom. GG. If you want to go to a specific line, like line 10, you can type colon, and similar to the WQ. So hitting a colon kind of goes into some command that sort of affects the file in general, affects the file you're editing in general. That's most of the commands you type here are about that. But I'll type :10 return, and that jumps the cursor to line 10. So if you're compiling something and you see an error on line 3000, you can type :3000 to jump to that line, and there you are. I didn't show you how to highlight yet. I will in a minute. GG to the top. And you can move anywhere in the middle of a line to any specific column by typing a number and then the vertical bar. So I can type 40 vertical bar, and it jumps to column 40. So ways to get around. Now I can type, let's see. Yeah. Okay, what else can we do with editing and insert mode? Oh, I remember what I wanted to show you. If you're at a spot, maybe there's several spots in your file you want to sort of mark and come back to, like bookmark. So you can go down to any line. Here's a special line of interest. Go to any line, and anywhere over the line, type M to mark, and then give it a name A through Z. So I'll mark this as spot A. So MA. And nothing appears to happen, but I can scroll around, and later on I can type single quote and then the mark name, so single quote A, jumps back to that line. So may not seem that useful now, but it probably will later on. And it wraps into something else I'm going to show you towards the end. All right, let me go back up to the top, GG. Let me delete most of these lines. Now's a good time to show you how to do a selection. So there's several ways to create a visual selection that you can then perform an editing command on. So one way is to type V, and now you're in a visual block or a visual selection mode, and it just highlights lines and parts of lines as you go. And I could delete all of that with a single letter D, or yank it and copy it with a single letter Y. So I'll hit D to delete. Okay, what else is there? There's Shift V. Shift V does a full line at a time. It doesn't matter where the cursor is on the line. It just highlights the full line, and then I can type D to delete that. I can go somewhere else and type capital P to paste above. Okay, undo that. So how could I delete all the junk lines, all the extra lines? Several ways we know now. Oh, let me show you one more. Let me delete a few lines here. Make these consistent. So what if I want to try to think of two words to switch positions on? doesn't really make sense if I switch. Okay, the quick brown fox will be better. Let me paste 20. I did a YY and now 20p. Let me change that to brown quick fox. So the final selection, visual selection mode is Control V. Control V starts a rectangular selection. And you can go and select a column basically. And now I'll type D to delete that. Now I'll go somewhere else and type P, and it pastes that column in. So now I just changed all of the quick brown fox to the brown quick fox. So that actually does come in handy, in super contrived example, but it comes in very handy in different situations for like if you have a markdown table and you end up wanting to switch to the columns, makes it a lot easier to do that. Okay, so how can we delete all the lines down there? So there's several ways. I could type, so I could go to the bottom with capital G, and I see that I'm on line 991. So let me GG to go back to the top. And so I could delete about 9980DD. That deletes most of them. Let me U to undo. Or, and this is what I usually use just to make it a little more, just a little quicker and more intuitive. So I'll do a Shift V visual selection, and then I'll capital G to go to the bottom. And so all that is highlighted now. And now I can pick what I want and type D to delete. And there we are. All right, let me show you a few other editing commands. So we know I insert something before the current letter. So the brown quick fox jumps over the lazy let's add in a color gray over the lazy gray dogs. So move anywhere in here and type I for insert, GRAY, escape. Okay, so that does that. What if there's no period at the end and I want to add a period to the end? I can go to the end, but what happens if I type I for insert? Oh, it's putting the period before the end. That's annoying. Okay, escape, U to undo. So the command A for append is just like I for insert, except it starts after the current letter instead of before. So if I go somewhere, if I go here and I type A for append, lazy gray dogs, it added or appended after the original spot. Okay, escape. Now let me go to the end and type A for append and a period. Escape. 0 to go to the beginning, $, to go to the end, 0. A lot of times you'll want to add a word at the beginning of a line or add something at the beginning of a line. So what if I had that? I want to add the word the. I could have the cursor anywhere in the line. Instead of going back to the beginning and then inserting the, I could type capital I. So capital I inserts at the beginning of the line. So often the lowercase letters, there's two ways it tends to work. Either the lowercase letters they operate on something after the current position and the capital letters operate before the current position, or the lowercase letters affect the current position, and the capital letters affect some sort of extreme position, some farthest position. So capital I to insert test space. That's not the word I want. The brown quick fox. Escape. What if I needed to add some words at the end? I could capital A, jump to the end, and then add type in what I want, hit escape. Back. How can you delete a single word? We already talked about that. How could you change a word? What if I wanted it to be the, so let me put these words back in order. DW, W to go to the next one, capital P to paste before. You just kind of like get familiar with when it needs to be before or when it needs to be after. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy gray dogs. So let me change brown fox to red fox. So I could DW and then insert red, escape. Okay, I could do that. Or I can C to change and then change what? Change some cursor movement. CW, change word. The quick red fox. Escape. I could go back. I could change two words at once. I could type 2CW, and that changes those two words to something else. The spry fox. Escape. Undo. You can type C to change, $ to change to the end of the line. The quick whatever, period, escape. Undo. You could be somewhere in the line and you could type C0 to change the beginning of the line to that position and add in whatever, the lazy dogs. Undo. All right, kind of getting a sense of how that works. Let's see, I want to do a code, like a little bit of a coding example so I can show you a few other things. Let me look at my cheat sheet, see if there's anything. Oh yeah, search and replace. I want to show you that. And a couple of other file commands. So how do you search for a word in your document or a pattern? So type slash in command mode, type slash, cursor jumps to the bottom, type the word you're looking for, I'll say lazy, hit return, and it shows me what, it jumps to the next occurrence and it highlights it. And now instead of searching again, I could type in for next, in for next. Okay, now let me slash search for the. Shows me all the occurrences of the word the. And I can hit in to cycle between them all. Now I could do, okay, here's a trick you'll want after a while. You want to get rid of the highlight. To get rid of the highlight, type :NOH, stands for no highlight. And that gets rid of the search highlight. Okay, let's do a backward search. Slash is forward search. Shift slash, or in other words, question mark, is backward search. Let me hit question mark the, and now it's going backwards. And if I hit in for next, it's going backwards. And then there's an even simpler way to search for words. If you're already on one of the words you want to search for, like you just want the next occurrence, :NOH, you can go to any word and type asterisk. An asterisk jumps to the next one, and then you can just hit asterisk again to keep jumping to the next one. And then the reverse corollary is pound sign or hash jumps backwards. To search and replace, it's a special separate command. So let's say I want to change brown to red everywhere. Let me put two copies of brown in one line. Yeah, it's good. :NOH. So to search and replace, you can't do it first by searching and then by replacing. You have to do it kind of all at once. So let me type : for a file level manipulation of some sort. And then you have to specify what lines you want to affect. % means all lines. And what command do I want to do? I want to S to search and replace, or actually substitute, I believe it stands for. So S to substitute, / what do I want to search for? I want to search for brown, / I want to replace it with red. Now, if you just leave it at that, let's see what happens. It changes it only once per line, but then there's still other copies. So let me undo that. Let me %S. I could start typing it. Then I can hit up arrow, and it goes back to my previous version. So %S / brown / red / G for global, I guess it means. Anyways, that just means make changes multiple times per line if needed. All right, so that changed all brown to red. Undo, Control-R, redo. All right, there we go. To save the file again, it's :W. To quit the file is :Q. Let me edit it again. You can save and quit with :WQ. And go back in. And if you want to save it as another file, there's two ways to do it. The sort of the old school way that I learned, that I didn't know there was a different way to do it, is to type :W other file.txt. But the problem with that is it does save the other file, but it continues to edit the first file. And that's not really like, it's easy to forget that you're still on the original file and make some changes that you thought were being made to the second file. So the better way is to :SAV to save, and then I'll call it other.txt. So that saves as other.txt and starts editing, switches to edit other.txt. Okay, look at my cheat sheet again. I think this is most everything. You can split files. You can split the screen with multiple Vim sort of windows. So :SP to split another file. I'll bring in my test.txt. You can hit like tab to complete and stuff like that. It's nice. So here's my two files. Control-W, tap Control, hold Control, tap W. That starts a window manipulation of some sort. So then J and K go up and down. So Control-W-J jumps the cursor down a window. Control-WK jumps it up a window. Command-T for tab starts a new tab at the top. You can mouse click between them, or you can hold down Command-Shift and hit left bracket and right bracket to switch between tabs. Yeah, that's good. Okay, :WQ, or if you haven't made any changes, just :Q is fine. Okay, let's do just a little bit more. I want to show you some tricks you can do with actual code and I want to show you how to do macros. So let's mvim, let's make a simple C program, test.c. Let's include standard io.h, int main, printf, hello world, \n in quotes, close parent semicolon, return 0 for no error, error level 0, exit code 0. Okay, escape, :w, q. Or I might just want to alt tab or a command tab between to my terminal and try it. I will just click on my terminal. So let's run it. gcc test.c. Default name will be a.out, so then I'll and. Then I want to execute /a.out. All right, there we go. Okay, so notice how it highlights the matching curly brace, and even if there were other levels of curly brace, you could, it would work. I'll show you in a minute. So you can hit %sign to jump down to the matching curly brace. So that's a cursor movement, and different syntax files for different languages define different operators, define what symbols are jumped between. So %. Let's copy these 4 lines. No, let me just YYP there, and let me YYP there, and make an inner block just to show you how it works with multiple levels. So I need to indent this. Let's say, let me DW to say that was all aligned there. So one way to indent it would be to manually insert some spaces. If it's recognized by the syntax file, the definition for the programming language within the editor, then we can type ==, and that auto indents the line kind of within the current block. ==. Now let me go back here and ==. Okay, that's better. ==. Okay, and as you become familiar with Vim, you'll realize anytime you're just typing the same thing on many different lines, it's time to just select everything and apply the command to all lines at once. So one way to do it would be I can type % to jump between those 2 curly braces. So let me type equal to indent, and then instead of another equal, I'll type %. So equal % indents all the lines between those 2 curly braces. Another way to indent lines is to select them in a visual highlight, a visual block, visual selection. And that's it. I did a Control V there. And then greater than. Okay, wait, if it's a single line with no highlight, then greater than. Okay, greater than. Or I could hit period to repeat. Okay, but if it's a highlighted block, then a single greater than will shift it. I could hit period to repeat that again. Similarly, highlight it, hit less than, that shifts it back, hit period to shift it back more times if I need to. Pretty slick. Now let me show you how macros work. So, well, maybe I'll build up to it. So it's pretty common to have some defines, like I'll define alpha as 0. I could type define beta as 1, gamma, delta. Let me hit escape. Let me just YY to copy that. Let me 4P to paste 4 copies. Let me go to the first alpha, hit star, asterisk, and now I can CW to change word beta. I'll add spacing myself extra spaces as needed myself. Escape, in for next, CW, gamma, escape, in for next, delta, escape, in for next, epsilon, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, escape. Well, now all these need an extra space. What can I do? I can Control V for a column highlight or a block highlight selection and do what? Now here you have to end up, you have to type capital I and then do your adjustments to one of the lines, and then when you hit escape, it inserts the same thing with the other lines. I said you have to do capital I versus lowercase I is what I meant. So if I do lowercase I, it's waiting for something else. It doesn't quite work right. So capital I, space, space, escape. Okay, now how do I easily change each of these to be the right number? One editing command we haven't seen yet is R replaces a single character under the cursor. So from command mode, I'll go here and I'll type R to replace, and then I'll type 1 for number 1. I'll go down R2, R3, R4. There's also a replace mode that's kind of an overwrite mode. I can go somewhere, let me YYP, WW. What comes after epsilon? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Is it theta? Well, whether it is or not, I'll do theta. Capital R. So little r, the next letter I type is the replacement. So like that. Okay, undo. Capital R replaces, it just overwrites from then on until you hit escape. Okay, undo. Capital R, theta, space, space, space 5. Okay, escape. Now, what if I wanted to do a, what if I wanted to add underscore def or tile, alpha tile to each, what if I want to add underscore tile to the end of each of these words? So that's not something I could do with a rectangular highlight or selection. I just have to, so I could do it there, and I could go down, and I could hit period to repeat there, period to repeat, period to repeat. So that works pretty well. I do have to still sort of do each one individually. Undo, 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 undo. And let me just make this twice as big, just to say we have more to work with. So what I can do is I can record a macro. Our macro is just a sequence of key commands that you can then play back. And so if you sort of time everything right, or you know, by timing I just mean make your commands general enough to apply to any line, and remember to include some like movement to the next line before you end the macro. Then it'll be easy to make all the changes. So let me hit QA. So Q to start recording, and then pick a name A through Z. QA. Okay, now it's recording. So what commands can I do that in general would change, you know, align with this pattern into a line that has underscore tile on the end of it? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go 0, hit 0 to go back to the beginning of the line. Just in case the cursor gets a little bit off on different lines, I want to kind of go back to the beginning to reset it. And then let's see, what can I do? W. Here's a new command we haven't seen. E goes to the end of a word. You could keep typing E, 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 E. It keeps going to the end of each word or non-space collection of characters. Okay, now I've messed up my macro. Q to stop. Let me just restart. Okay, QA, 0 to go to the beginning. Let me hit E, E to get there. And then A for append, underscore, tile, escape. And then I just need to go down a line. And then Q to turn off my macro. Q. Okay, now I can play my macro back with the @ sign, and then macro named A. So @ A plays that back. @ A plays it back again. I can play back the previous macro, whatever macro I last played back, with @. And then finally I could play back the macro like 4 times in a row with for @ A. Or for @ after it had already been going. Okay. Undo all those and just do it all at once. I don't think I can run a macro from here well. Let me try it @ A. No, that doesn't work. But I was just counting the number of lines. So 12 lines. Okay, escape. So from anywhere on the first one, @ A. No, I wanted to do 12 @ A. Okay, there we go. So macros. You don't really worry about, I'm not sure to what extent macros are saved between sessions. I think they are saved between sessions. I'm not totally sure about that. But not per file, but just the next time you use Vim, it might have saved it. Anyways, my philosophy is never about setting up a bunch of perfect macros and then using them all the time. I just kind of like develop a new macro, just an ad hoc, like on the fly. I just kind of make a new little macro whenever I need to make some specific changes, and then I kind of forget all about it. So that's that. Okay, let me show you something else. Move over any number, and you can type Control A, and it adds 1 to that number. I could hit, I don't think did I show you period? Maybe not. Period is a very important command. I think I did. Anyways, YY, P to paste. If I hit period, I could hit P to keep pasting, but period keeps just repeating whatever the previous editing command was. So if I do a Control A to add 1 to it, I could hit period to keep repeating that. Okay, so anyways. So Control X reduces, it subtracts 1 from the number under the cursor. Control A adds 1. So we could use that. Let's say these were all different defines. We could use that to automatically number these defines. Let me make a macro that takes some of what we've learned here and the new Control A that we've learned and automatically adjusts a next number to be the previous number plus 1. So I'll start just on a previous number. Now, one thing I want to point out is if a number is like 10, we're going to need to be like going like forward and back, whatever. If I'm on a single digit number and I hit B for back, it goes all the way back there to the beginning of the previous word. If I'm at the end of a double digit letter or more than one digit, I hit B for back. It goes back to the beginning of that particular word or identifier or number. So that'll make things a little tricky. That's why I'll do some of the things I do. Okay, I'm just going to start on the second one here. I don't care what the number is. Could be 9. Okay, I'm going to QB. I'll just make it called, I'll just name it B this time. QB to record macro B. And what do I want to do? I want to delete this number. Now I can't just type X because then it wouldn't work right for double digit, triple digit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 0 all the way to the beginning of the line, and then E for end, E for end. Okay, there. And then W for the next word gets me to the start of that number. So it's a very roundabout way, but it works with multi-digit numbers. So now I'm going to delete, $sign to the end. There are still spaces here. There's just nothing after the spaces. Now I'm going to go up and grab the previous number. So I'll hit 0, and then I'll go up 1, and then I'll hit E for end, E, and then W for the beginning of the next number, of that number. YW to yank the word. Any sequence of non-space characters is basically considered a word for these purposes. Now I'm going to go down a line. I'll hit $sign just to be sure I'm at the end. Then I'll hit P for paste. Now I'll hit Control A to add 1 to that. Now I'll go down to the next line, J, or cursor down. Now I'll turn off my macro, Q. Stopped recording. Now I'll play it back, @B, 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 @B. I need, what, 6 more? So 6, @B. And we get some nice auto numbering. I could make that larger. And how many after the first one now? I've got 35. I can see in the bottom right corner. Got 35. So I'll come up here and I'll hit @3. Whoops, wrong one. Wrong order. I'll hit 35 @B. Okay, it wasn't 35. How did, oh, I copied and pasted a bunch, and then I accidentally undid that. Okay, now I've got 47. By the way, Control F goes down like a page, Control B goes back a page. All right, so so 47, 47, @B. Now it relabels, it adjusts all those identifiers. And so this is particularly handy. Like usually you wouldn't be doing this necessarily as you're adding these defines one by one in C or a similar language. I mean, something with a similar purpose in another language. So, but where it is really handy is if I'm deleting some definitions kind of from the middle and I want to close that gap. So the 12 to 19. So I'll just go down here and @B. And I can just hold down @, is a way to do that. All right, so looking pretty good. And let me do one more thing with macros, maybe not as tricky and maybe more useful. Often we want to, let's see, DD, Shift V, highlight, less than sign, fix that. Okay. Let me get rid of some of this extra junk. Many times you want to make a switch statement out of some defines, with one of the defines being each define being a case. So let's do that with a macro. Let's make a switch. So it's like like switch, in, wherever in comes from, figure that out later. I'll just kind of set up the switch. And then I want to turn each of these into a case. So I'll Shift V, highlight them all, Y to yank, come down here, P to paste. And again, I just need to record a little ad hoc macro to make the changes I need. Or I can get away with some other, I'll do it with a couple different ways. So first I'll do Control V, I'll select this block, then here's a new command, I'll S to substitute. And now it's just letting me type stuff in to substitute for what it used to be in that highlight. Space, space, case, space, escape. Okay, so that gets me half the way there. Now let me do a macro. And I could do the whole thing in a macro easily. But QA, start recording macro A. 0 to go back to the beginning. W, W, E. Sounds like wrestling. I will space one more over, and then I'll C to change, $ till the end, colon, return, and I'll just add in a break, semicolon, escape, down a line, Q to turn it off the macro. QA to repeat macro A twice more, so sorry, I totally said that wrong. @ A to replay macro A. And again, and then @, or I could do like 2 @ A to play it back twice more. So macros can be super handy in situations like that. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for Vim. Just a couple of final notes, several final notes. One is, let's go back to the Vim command reference. Do I give a link to, configuring Vim? So I have a little repo. I just keep my configuration files in whenever I switch to a new computer. Whenever I set up a new computer, it's a little repo I can just download, and it's got all my stuff. So feel free to take a look. It's linked here. So on Mac and Linux, your home folder has a .vimrc file, hidden file. And on Windows, the home folder has an _vimrc file. And that sets up all kinds of config stuff. So you can check out what mine looks like. Copy and paste it all, or take pieces of it as you like. There's probably a little bit of junk in there that just never got cleaned out. But anyways, you can check that out. And then, of course, you can edit that in Vim. So I'll vim ~/.vimrc. I forgot to do Mac Vim, but whatever, that's fine. So here's my Vim config file. Okay, good on that. And then I wanted to show you edit or ed real quick. ls. So let's edit test.txt. So that's ed test.txt. Ed just comes with Mac still, probably other Linux too. Okay, there's 1387 bytes. What do I want to do? I want to P to print the current line. Okay, or you can do in to print the current line. So there is a cursor somewhere, but the cursor moves without displaying anything until you tell it to display a line. So in displays the line with the line number. Okay, so we're on line 20. So let me go to the previous line. So minus n backs up 1 and prints that. So that's 19. And minus n. Okay, got a lot of those. Let's go up to the top just by going to line number 1. So line number 1 in. This is the top of the file. Let's print the whole file. Percent is the whole file. And remember, we use that in Vim to search and replace the whole file. So percent is the whole file. In displays the whole file with line numbers. Let me delete line 6. So remember, D was a delete command. So in ed, I can type 6D. So there's 6, 7, and 8 are blank right now. So 6D. Okay, now let me print it all out again, %p. Percent end with line numbers. Okay, so yeah, I deleted that line. Let me add it. There's the line. This is the bottom. I don't know ed super well, so let me see if this works. Let me see if I can move this is the bottom to the actual bottom. So that would be a 5D to delete that line. And then the bottom would now be line 18. So I could do 18P to paste. E. Okay, %n. Okay, that didn't work at all. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. All right, let's save and quit. WQ. W to save. 1387 bytes. Q to quit. So you can see how. And I could open a line with so A for append and I for insert. I'll show you that real quick. %n. Let me append a new line at the bottom. This should work. 18A. And then I can start typing in. This is the bottom. And then a line with just a period by itself marks the end of the input. So now I can %n. Okay, so there we go. All right, so like I and A, insert and append lines, everything operates on the line level. And Vim has a lot of the similar kinds of commands, but it all operates at like the letter, the character level and the word level, and so on. Okay, but then yeah, WQ, save and quit. So you will never need to use that. Pretty positive, but kind of cool, just to see where it all came from. Okay, last thing I want to mention is setting up your escape key to be, sorry, the escape key, the control, no, the caps lock. I'm saying it all backwards. Set up the caps lock key to be escape and control. And so this all came from, I was inspired to figure all this out when Mac released their horrid touch bar. It's like the worst idea they've ever had. Touch bar, my main gripe with it, well, yeah, two main gripes. One main gripe was that it was so sensitive, and as I would reach up and type number keys, my fingertip would just lightly brush the touch bar, and then some kind of crazy command would happen. And so I ended up like making my touch bar like auto expand, where I had to like tap in one spot to get any of the options, and then everything's like super clunky to do that way. Then the other problem was, did it have an escape key? I can't remember now. I don't think it did, or else it was like really tiny or something. I think there was an escape key. Yeah, there was a virtual escape key on there, but yeah, you can't type that from muscle memory very well, I don't think. I'm doubtful as to whether I could ever learn to do that effectively. So anyways, that drove me to figure out a better alternate way to hit or to have my escape key functionality with a missing escape key. So anyhow, I ran across this somewhat common and kind of crazy and wonderful idea to remap the caps lock key to be both control and escape keys. And the way it works is, once you get it remapped, the way it works is if you hold down caps lock and then press another letter, then it acts as control. So it's control whatever. If you just tap it by itself, then it's escape. And so that's perfect, except for video games or something. You would never need to just be tapping control. And so yeah, just it's sort of context sensitive. And it is really a game changer, like just in the same way that VI sort of encourages you to stop reaching for the arrow keys and to move your fingers to the home row for the cursor movement. Now, the only weird thing about Vim then, VI and Vim, was that you had to always be stretching for the escape key. And so this is just perfect. You just like just a little reach over with the pinky, and you can type control or escape. Makes everything so much faster. So let me show you real quick as the final thought, I believe, how to do that on Mac and Windows. On Windows, there's a program. Let's go to the web browser. There's a program called Hotkey, autohotkey.com. It's free. And that lets you install different sort of scripts to control what happens when different keys are pressed, what keys get sent through to the system. So download and install that. And then I feel like it's a little hard getting started on this and finding what you need. So I just want to show you real quick. So I installed and downloaded it. If I run an AutoHotkey script, then it'll work, but I need to put the script in the right place. I need to find the script. So if you go to my gist.github.com, yep, notice that gist is pronounced the same way as GIF. Haha, burn. gist.github.com/Abe Prawley. I just added a gist on there that shows you the caps lock mapping script. I copied this from somewhere else. I forget who, sadly, but isn't there a little more to this? Yes, there is. Okay, now I could copy it before. How do I copy it now? I can go back. Oh, it wasn't a copy, it was a view. Okay. So let me go and let me leave that there for a second. Now I want to put it in my startup folder. And what I do on my system is I put it in my Dropbox, and then I do a shortcut from my startup folder, startup folder into the Dropbox script. So I don't have to quite set it up as much each time I switch systems. But let's just put it directly in the startup folder. So the way to get there is File Explorer, just type startup as the address, it's the location. Here we go, here's the previous one. Let me just delete it and redo it. So we want to put something in the startup folder. Let me get my command prompt. Let me cd to that folder. So I'll type cd space, and then I'll just drag the folder name in here, and it types it all out for me. So I don't have to type it all out. All right, so I'm on the Z drive. That's my parallels shared drive. Let me get back to C. Okay, so I'm in the startup folder. It's empty. So now let me gvim map caps lock dot auto hotkey ahk. That brings that up. Now I can go copy this code, Control C, copying it into Vim. I forget what the default configuration is. I have it set to where I can just type P and it pastes from the system clipboard. If that doesn't work, then you need to pick which register. So you can actually end up like copying and pasting to registers A through Z. Those are like 26 different clipboards you can use. Or the special register, the special clipboard called asterisk means the system clipboard. So this is a weird, I mean, it's out of nowhere all of a sudden, a sour bite to end the meal, but double quote asterisk to select the system clipboard, and then P for paste. So that would do it if it doesn't paste automatically. All right, so there we go. Maps cap lock ahk is in the startup folder. That'll run each time. And I'll double click it to run it now. And you can see there's a little green AHK taskbar icon there. You can right click it and edit the script from there as well in Notepad. Da-da-da. Okay, so that's Windows. Mac, you want to search for Karabiner-Elements. Karabiner spelled with a K. Karabiner-Elements. And download that, install it. Once you do, then I'll just get my preferences from my existing install. Okay, once you run it, then you want to go down to complex modifications, add rule, and you need to find the rule called change caps lock to left control if pressed with other keys, change caps lock to escape if pressed alone. And there's actually a number of different scripts that do basically the same thing with slightly different names. So I forget if it shows up as one of these examples here. It might. Or you can import rules from the internet. And you end up like downloading. So you could type control, let's see, caps lock, control, escape would probably find something. Yeah, somewhere in there, I'm not going to bother searching for it. But somewhere in there is essentially what you need. And again, the one I use, change caps underscore lock to left underscore control if pressed with other keys, change caps underscore lock to escape if pressed alone. So yeah, you could probably just type some of those words more exactly than I did before and find it. And yeah, enable it, and on both systems, you're off and running. I don't know how to do it on Linux. I've never messed with that. And oh, one last thing. You remember when I showed you this State of the Front End 2022 report, and I showed how it was really long, and then I somehow magically jumped down to what's your favorite desktop code editor? Well, guess what? I was using Vim controls. I'm using the web browser Vivaldi, which is based on Chromium, aka Chrome infrastructure. And so there's a Chrome plugin called Vimium, and that gives you some Vim keyboard controls within the web browser. And do you recall us setting a mark in a document and jumping back to the mark? So here I could set a mark. I'll type M for mark and then A through Z. I used A for my other one, so I'll tap B, make this one mark B. Now in regular Vim, it's single quote to go back to a mark, but in Chromium, some of the keys are a little different for various reasons. In Vimium, you hit backtick and then a mark letter. So I'll go back to the other one, so I'll hit backtick A, that jumps back there, and then I'll hit backtick B, and that jumps back there. I can type GG to go to the top of the screen. I can type capital G to go to the bottom of the screen. I could type YY to copy the URL without fussing and going up and triple clicking the URL and Control C. So yeah, just YY to copy the URL. I can paste it somewhere else. Or here's a different Y command. So there's a number of commands only in Vimium that involve T for tabs. So I can type YT, that kind of copies. So Y is sort of a copy yank. So copy this page onto another tab. So YT, let me click back on the screen, I think. YT just duplicates the URL you're at. So it just opens another copy of whatever web page you're on. I use this all the time on Amazon if I want to order a couple different styles of the same thing. You know, once you order it, then it's hard to get back to it. So I'll just make a few copies and order each style, add each style to my cart one by one. J moves down, K moves up. You could type 100J, 100K. Space goes a page at a time, like a lot of browsers, I think. And here's a cool one. Shift J and Shift K, they cycle through your tabs. And the only other command I'll mention right now is question mark, which shows you all of the Vimium commands that you can use. And then if you need to, you can, on a particular web page, you can just pop open the options and just click Save Changes, and that'll turn Vimium off for this web page. Or you could first type specific keys that you don't want Vimium to handle. But it works as is with most web pages. All right, that's it. I hope you got something out of the video, and go learn Vim. Catch you later.